Elon Musk stated this about Optimus. Our goal is to make a useful humanoid robot as quickly as possible, with the aspiration of being able to make them at high volume and low cost. It is expected to cost much less than a car. Hi, this is Randy Kirk, and I wanted to bring you guys up to date on this entire Optimus robot issue. So much has been going on YouTube and on Twitter. So many different interviews taking place, some on my channel, some on other channels, and a lot of really good stuff. A lot of people that are coming around to a point of view that you may have heard on this channel. Anyway, let's like this if you do, like it later. If you decide you like it later, join up on Patreon. I could really use a few more folks on Patreon. Okay, 90 days ago, exactly today, I started talking about my theory that Tesla will build 1,000 Optimus robots by hand using 3D printing and whatever necessary tools and ways and methods that they would use in order to be able to deploy these throughout their factories and be able to start finding out what they're good for, what they're useful for, how to make them even more useful, and how to collect data and all the rest. I made the statement on many, many occasions since. On different channels, you can go see pretty much every time that Optimus is mentioned and I'm in the room, I talk about my theory. My other part of the theory is that they would put together a pilot line, maybe even by the fourth quarter, but certainly by the first quarter of 2024, and they would start building towards an annual production rate of the first 1 million units per year. Now, there's almost nobody thought I was right in December of 2022, but there are a few folks and some pretty smart folks that have come around since. Now, part of my reason for believing this was the statement by Elon Musk, and let me just read it again. Slowly, listen to his exact words. I might editorialize in between. Our goal is to make a useful humanoid robot as quickly as possible. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to take our time and it's going to be a secondary issue for us. And, you know, if we think that we should put some manpower on it, we'll have to decide if we could do, you know, if that's the best use of that manpower. No, this is as quickly as possible. I suspect that they are doing everything that they know how to do to make Optimus as useful as they can possibly make it, as fast as they can possibly accomplish that. And then he said that this was the aspiration to make it as able to make it at high volume and low cost. A lot of people speculated about the cost. Most people are thinking that it will be in the range of $10,000 to $20,000 for Tesla to produce it. But what Elon said was it is expected to cost much less than a car. So much less than a car, $30,000, $35,000 car. So let's say the end user is going to pay less, much less than $35,000. Now, there's a lot of speculation out there about whether these products will be sold, whether they'll be leased, how exactly this will take place. Most people think you'd have to be crazy to sell these. You could lease them for $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year. We'll talk about that toward the end of this video if you'd like to see kind of how the math works out and why this should be right now creating a situation where Tesla is worth double or triple what the stock market is willing to pay right now, just for the robot, okay? But we'll get into those details toward the end. All right. But part of my reason for believing everything that first of all, I should say the second reason why I believe that they're going all out and that they would be deploying them already in the factories is because as a factory owner, from day one, I would buy one of those right now. I'd put my deposit down right now because I could see immediate use for the product back at AI Day 2, and certainly at Investor Day when they showed us that little tiny video. All right. But here's what Milan Kovac, the director of engineering for Autopilot, said on AI Day 2, and I'm sorry it's a little long and I might editorialize, but here we go. I think the first thing is that within the next few weeks to get Optimus at least at par with Bumble C. That was the off-the-shelf unit that they showed the most at AI Day 2. And then, and the other, I'm sorry, to get it on the par with Bumble C, and the other prototype you saw earlier today and probably beyond. So in other words, they're going to get it to be beyond as quickly as possible in very short order. Well, we saw at AI Day 2, I'm sorry, at Investor Day, that in fact, the production-looking type unit made with parts, custom parts designed by Tesla was already much better than the old Bumble C. So they'd already accomplished that in just 5 months. Beyond that, we're going to start focusing on the real use case at one of our factories and really going to try to nail this down and run out all the elements needed to deploy this product in the real world. Now, can it be any more clear than that? We're going to make units and we're going to deploy them in the real world, in the factory, in one factory, maybe more than one, but he said one factory. Does it have to be any more clear than that? That was stated back at AI Day 2. So you could imagine that possibly they were deployed very soon after that, and certainly they're deployed now. That's just another one of my reasons for believing it. All right. So he goes on to say, focusing on the use case at our factories and try to nail this down and run out all the elements needed to deploy this product in the real world, real world. You know, indoor navigation, graceful for management, servicing the components, and then how to scale the product up. I don't know about you, but after seeing what we've shown tonight, this is him talking, not me. After seeing what we've shown tonight, I'm pretty sure that we can get this done within the next few months or years and make this product a reality and change the entire economy within a few months or years. Well, that gave him, you know, some breathing room. If he didn't do it within a few months, he'd be fine. But I think we all saw what we saw on Investor Day in the short video, and they had made phenomenal progress to the point which, well, let's just move on with my analysis. I started reaching out to experts. So this is December 20th is when I made my first statement. I started reaching out for experts. I started trying to find people that knew something about this and having them on my show. You can go back and you can look at videos that I've done that have to do with Optimus, and you can see that progress. John Gibbs, Dr. Know-It-All, Scott Walter, who's been a robotics expert for over 40 years. These are both PhDs. Joe Munaretto, he's another PhD, just had him on my show about 10 days ago. I started getting these experts, started having them on the show. We started talking about this, and one by one, they agreed with my analysis. Well, Scott Walter is still saying that he's only thinking they'll do maybe 500 Optimus robots this year. He says he's hedging his bet. He's not quite willing to go up to my 1,000 units that will be hand built this year. 500, I'll be happy with 500. I'd be happy with 300. I'd be happy with 700. I'd be happy with 2,000. I think that they'll build them and they'll deploy them as fast as they possibly can. Well, so now, of course, over the last few weeks, you've probably seen lots of stuff happening up there on all kinds of channels, talking about all of this type of stuff, which is right. I mean, we need to be talking about this as investors, as people that are fans. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the 10 reasons why I think it's undeniable. There's no way to contemplate the idea that they're not doing everything that Elon and Milan said that they were going to do in terms of getting these made and deployed and getting this to the product level as fast as humanly possible. So let's start with number one. The number one reason would be those two statements, Elon's and Milan's statements. And there's been no statements to the contrary. There's been nobody saying, oh, we need to slow down, or, oh, we're running into huge problems making these. No, there's nothing like that. Number two, the huge internal benefit to getting this done. Cost cutting at every single factory. At under $50,000 a unit, their cost, I'm saying even hand built, and Scott Walter agrees with me, under 50,000, probably on the order of $20,000, hand built. Why wouldn't they make these, if they're useful, if they can do a useful task, why wouldn't they build these as fast as possible? It would take the place of up to 4 employees at least 200,000 in labor, probably way more than 200,000 in labor, which we'll talk again in detail in a minute. Just for internal purposes, if you had a factory and you could start replacing your employees for $20,000 each, that first 6 months they're paid for. After that, it's all free. I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, it's just like, why would anybody think that they would do any other way? Okay. Then the statement on Investor Day that the unboxed approach to building cars is perfect for Optimus. So they're already planning Optimus. They're already putting Optimus into the picture in terms of the most futuristic factory in the world ever. And that is, how many Optimuses can you get around an unboxed Model 3, Model 2, but not obviously Model 2 or Level 3. How many Optimus can you get in that room to help build that car? Better than having humans do it. Okay, number 4. We had visuals of at least 2 bots working, and they were building a 3rd bot on the Investor Day video. Well, if you can make 2 that can do what those 2 were doing, I'm just saying that they've built way more than 2. It doesn't make any sense to me. Scott Walter is suggesting that they've built at least a couple of dozen or a couple of dozen by now. I would say that would be the minimum that I can imagine. Okay, number 5, Scott's detailed analysis. If you haven't watched this video yet, you need to go watch it. Scott did a detailed analysis over on Brighter with Herbert this past weekend. If I remember, I'll link it below. If you can't find it, just look up Brighter with Herbert if I forget, okay? I am an absent-minded type of guy, so sometimes I do forget. But that detailed version of what all of the different actuators and all of the different cables and all the fingers and how the fingers work and what can and can't be done based on what they were seeing. It's a phenomenal video. It's the best thing Brighter with Herbert has ever done. Go Herbert. Take a look at that video if you haven't already seen it. Don't stop this video now. Go look after. Anyway, number 6, putting bots to work creates a huge new playground for designers and engineers to contemplate additional use cases and then put them to work immediately. So if you've got dozens of these and now you're like, oh, we could use it for this. And then you just grab one and you bring it over and you say, okay, let's see if it can do this. And then you use different tools and different methods of teaching the robot how to do this new use case. And of course, that leads to data. So the more use cases you use it for, the more training that you give it, the more things that the bot learns on its own, how to become better and better at what it does and to understand its environment and whatnot. All of that data is going into Dojo, and then this data is now able to be deployed and upgrade the entire fleet through, over-the-air updates. So the data. That's why you need a lot of them. Listen to Scott again in the video with Herbert. He talks about, of course, the more of these you build, just like the more cars you have in the road, the more of these you build, the more data you're getting, which is going to help the bot become more and more successful. So at $10,000 or $20,000 a piece to build these, why wouldn't you be building them as fast as possible? All right. Number 8, the fleets get smarter and better and faster based on the number of deployed bots. So not only do they get better at what they do, they get faster at what they do. And this is the key thing, in a factory, certainly an Elon Musk factory, is how fast can they do what they do? You can get to the place where some of these bots may be replacing more than 4 people. We'll talk about that again in a minute. Okay, number 9. It's easy to upgrade deployed unit hardware if there's major improvements. Unlike a car, you can't, you make a major improvement on a car, you can't bring it back and say, okay, we're going to put a brand new piece of glass on this car because we've got a better piece of glass. No, they're out, they're deployed, they're sold. But while these are still in the factory and while they're iterating and making them better and better, if you come up with better fingers, a better wrist, a better actuator, it's not that hard. You can pull back. Let's say you've got 75 of them, 1,000, even if you have 1,000 of them, how hard is it to bring back those 1,000, 10 at a time or 20 at a time and change out the actuator? I mean, this is not hard. So you can be updating and upgrading and iterating, even backwards iterating into the fleet as you come up with better hardware. The software, of course, is taken care of by Dojo. All right. And then number 10, potentially game-changing product that dwarfs all other aspects of Tesla and every other company on Earth. Oh, would that be a good enough reason to put 100% of your time and attention, 100% of your top engineers, 100% of whatever is necessary in order to move the project further? Okay. I'm assuming, I think you would agree with me, Elon is a smart guy, and he's got a lot of smart people around him. And he's also an entrepreneur. We've talked about this before. Entrepreneurs are always looking for the new, bright, shiny object. Elon has shown in his eyes, in his demeanor, in his body language, that he thinks the bot is his brand new toy and something that he's enjoying being involved in and developing. I would say that would be true for the engineers as well. They've got to be excited about this. And they've been looking for top robotic engineers to come to work for Tesla for some time now. So you've got to have a team now of folks that are extremely excited about what they're trying to do. All right. Those are my top 10 reasons, in addition to the fact that Elon's just bright and smart. And of course, he's going to do those things. Okay. But on Thursday, I'm going to be publishing my new interview, my third interview in a set of 3. One came out on Sunday. You can go back and look at that one. One's coming out tomorrow on Tuesday. You definitely want to see that one. It's mind-boggling. And then on Thursday, though, Joe Justice is going to go beyond my thinking and Scott's thinking and John Gibbs' thinking and Joe's thinking. Well, not that Joe, but the other Joe. He's going to go beyond any thinking I've seen yet. He's going to go further outside the box. Well, sort of inside. Well, we won't talk about. I don't want to give too much of it away, but you will be shocked and surprised by what Joe Justice has to say on Thursday. So if you haven't liked, now's the time. Did you like this? If you liked it, like it, because more people get to see it and it'll help the channel. And then subscribe. And then if you push the notify thing, you'll get notified when the Joe Justice videos come out. So that would be, good for you and good for me. Okay. All right. Here's the implications. Let's say that they just want to deploy these at Optimus and Tesla, but then eventually they're going to want to sell these things or lease them or something. The average employee at Tesla has to be costing Tesla about $80,000 a year. That's assuming $30 an hour. You add in all the overhead, you add the taxes, hiring, training, management. You can build a case that every employee costs a lot more than even double their hourly. And that's, so I'm saying $80,000 a year based on a $30 an hour payroll. All right. If Tesla replaces even 3 employees with one bot, then the total savings from that one bot is $240,000. Now, the potential to replace is way more than those 3 employees because of breaks, errors and mistakes by employees, not working as hard as they should. Then you add the 4th shift. There's 3 shifts a day for a 40-hour shifts for a 5-day week, but you have a whole nother shift on the weekend. So you have 4 shifts a week. So right away, you could be replacing 4 employees, and then it's more than 4. Now, Tesla has 130 employees, 130,000 employees. It's not crazy to imagine that they might replace 25 of those with 8,000 bots, and we'd only be talking about a $2 billion savings. $2 billion savings. That alone should be impacting the stock. They only need 8,000 of these to save $2 billion that'll drop straight to the bottom line, or be able to be used to drop costs of the final vehicle price, or the final energy storage device, or whatever else we're talking about, the additional robots that are being made. So now we'll talk about the other way. Let's say they've got all that they need in the factory now. Let's say they only need 8,000. Maybe they need another couple of thousand for SpaceX and another 1,000 for the Boring Company. Who knows where they might deploy them, but now they've got all those deployed, and now they need to deploy more. A couple of months ago, I started talking about the idea that whether they sell them or lease them, you would only be able to get one of these robots, at least over the first million that Tesla makes. You would be getting these only by application. And what I mean by that is, if I still had my factory and I wanted one or two or three, I would have to apply. I have to send my money, my check, along with an application filled out, telling about the use case, telling about what I would do with the bot. So if I've only got a one-shift company, maybe I don't qualify. If I'm doing something that's not useful to Tesla at this point in terms of learning something, maybe I don't qualify. But in any case, let's just say now that they start to manufacture these, they ramp up just like any vehicle, but way faster. I think, could be wrong, but let's say that the first year it's 200,000, and the second year it's 500,000, third year it's 1 million. So we're heading towards 1 million of these. If Tesla were to lease these bots out at just $50,000 a year, and let's say that the all-in cost is $10,000 a year. So you got the cost of making it in the first place. Maybe the lease includes replacing parts. It would certainly include over-the-air updates. Maybe it includes updates in terms of software, whatever it is. But let's say that, some interaction between Tesla and the lessor, the lessee rather, because they're going to want to know what's happening. They got this problem, and Tesla also wants to see how it's working. And so there's interaction. So there's some employee interaction taking place there. Let's say it costs them $10,000 a year to manage each bot. And they're charging 50. So they're making $40,000 each. $40,000 times 1 million would be a $40 billion profit. A $40 billion profit. Aramco just posted the highest profits that any company that we've known about, at least on Earth, has ever made. I think it was 230 billion. So 1 million bots deployed would earn at a minimum. That's assuming you only charge 50,000 for a product that's probably worth 200,000 to the person that you're giving it to, or that you're leasing it to. So we're assuming 50,000, and that's assuming it costs 10,000 to keep it deployed. 40,000. $40,000. What did I just say? $40,000 per year for 1 million bots is $40 billion in profit. Now the numbers after that just become ridiculous, because let's say again that in the third year, it takes them 3 years to get to 1 million, but then the next year they only make another million. Well, that's another 40 billion. And if they only make another billion, the next year that's another 40 billion. Or let's say they double up from 1 million to 2 million, and now they get 80 billion. And then the next year it's 160 billion. In addition to the 40 and the 80 that they're already making. So they're passing Aramco in about 7 years just on bots. What is that worth to the market? What should the market be paying for a product that has that potential? But they just don't get it. They don't see, nobody is understanding. Many retail investors don't get it. Elon said it. It is by far the biggest product of any of his companies. The only thing that could come close is Starlink, and most people have no idea about the potential for Starlink, but we talked about it in the book, the Elon Musk mission. If you haven't read the section on Starlink, you're missing out. Starlink potentially was the largest company that Elon Musk was building, but he's already said, no, you're talking about a TAM of 8 billion, at least, units replacing all of the labor in the world, or better than that, the labor is now producing $8 billion worth, 8 billion units worth of value, and you still have, 2 billion humans employed around the world doing other more useful things that either the robot can't do or can't do as well. So this is just a crazy, crazy, crazy opportunity. And yet the market is valuing Optimus at 0. And of course, you've seen my videos. Well, maybe you haven't. I'm suggesting that Optimus should be split off as a separate entity, that the Tesla stockholders all get a stock dividend in the new company. So there's no loss to the stockholders. You get the benefit of having it split off, and there's an immediate value put on it by Wall Street. And then you could do an IPO, which puts the value even higher, et cetera. But I'm not going to go on all that details again. So we all assume that Elon Musk is smart, right? I certainly do. If you had that kind of a TAM sitting in front of you with that kind of potential return on investment and the total just gross earnings potential, would you or would you not be putting your top people on it and putting your section of time that you believe is extremely valuable, enough of your time to make sure that this thing is moving forward as fast as humanly possible? I'm curious to know what you think. I'm curious to know what you think about my list of 10. I'm curious to know what you think about all these numbers, because we Tesla fans, Warren Redlick and I and others have put up some big numbers historically. Guess what? None of those numbers have proven out to be not true. Most of those numbers are still in the future and looking more true every day. We're talking about the potential value of robotaxi, the potential value of Lathrops all over the world. We know that's coming. So the numbers that we've been throwing out that might seem massive, none of them have been disproven, and many of them are still looking potentially like they're true. So you heard about Lathrop first in our book. You heard about the idea that there's already deployed robots on my channel first. We've got other stuff that we've been talking about that other people don't talk about too. We'll talk about some more of those later this week after we're done with all of the conversations with Joe Justice. Be sure you don't miss any of those. So this is Randy Kirk. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff. And please join my Patreon. I think you'll find that there's opportunities in addition to what you're seeing here. There's stuff going on Patreon that's going to bless you even more. It's been great talking to you.